those social media navigators.
Hey, listen!
No, not those navigators. You navigating through the social media platforms. Thank you very much for checking this video out and welcome to our channel if this is your very first time. In this video, I'm gonna be giving you and sharing my personal theory about what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 could be all about and what time frame it could possibly take place on. But listen closely, it's just my personal theory. Well, I would rather call it a hypothesis, or, well, hold on. Come on! Barely a hypothesis. Let's just call it an educated guess. Well, which is kind of a hypothesis, I know. For those of you who don't know what the difference is between a hypothesis and a theory, here it is. A hypothesis is an educated guess or prediction about the relationship between two variables. It must be a testable statement, something that I can support or falsify with observable evidence. The objective of a hypothesis is for an idea to be tested, not proven. The results of a hypothesis test can demonstrate only whether that specific hypothesis is or is not supported by evidence. But when many studies produce similar outcomes, then together they may suggest a theory for the phenomenon under investigation. That being said, the thoughts and statements I'll be sharing on this video are solely based on my personal observations and nothing else but that. As noted on the hypothesis definition, my personal opinions represented on this video, it's something that I can support or falsify with observable evidence. The objective of a hypothesis is for an idea to be tested, not proven. Therefore, I will not be taking into consideration by any means any of the games within the Legend of Zelda saga or any events taking over the Zelda timeline. If you bear with me and keep the following in mind, and please do so, everything that I'm about to share may be very well incorrect and or erroneously backed up. This is not a theory channel, and nor do I specialize on doing this kind of theory videos. I decided to do this video because in spite of so many other Breath of the Wild sequel theories already out there bombarding your suggested feeds, I haven't heard a single one individual touch upon these points I'm going to be sharing with you today. I wanted to make sure that I had nothing but personal insights and wanted to make sure that I didn't come across or sounded like anyone out there already theorizing on the Breath of the Wild sequel. And that's why I decided to do this video. Especially with the so anticipated sequel that many of us Zelda fans are waiting for later this year, 2020. Hopefully, even though the idea seems to be fading into 2021. For sure, hopefully, whenever. So let's just get started before you click off this video because nature may call upon your name. My solely personal educated guess on when Breath of the Wild 2 will take place is this simple. Breath of the Wild 2 will take place before Breath of the Wild 1. No way. From here on after, I will just refer to the 2017 Breath of the Wild as Breath of the Wild 1 and the sequel as Breath of the Wild 2, even if that isn't the final title. Let's start by working backwards on the trailer. At the very end of the trailer, we see Hyrule Castle emerging from the ground. Not at its entirely, but partially raised from the ground, which brings me to my very first point of observation. Both Zelda and Link are walking through what it seems to be an underground area. At this point, I don't care what this specific area is, because it could either be a temple, a mine, a dungeon, or any other underground sort of cave. I believe that because of what happens on this trailer, and it may entirely be what causes Hyrule Castle to elevate as in the way we see it at the end of the trailer. The one thing that comes to mind when evaluating the Hyrule Castle elevation is a reverse fault. I'm no seismologist, but let me explain a bit for those of you who are not a seismologist either. When two plates push against each other, it will cause a portion of the terrain to lift in between the two existing plates, creating a lump onto the surface. We clearly do see and hear sort of an earthquake occurring in this cutscene. I'll explain in a minute on why I'm calling this a cutscene. I can only speculate that whatever invoked this earthquake was derived by the awakening of this creature, which for the sakes of this conversation we will just call it a mummified Ganondorf. I know that this trailer is compiled by different shots that are not in order. Yes, they're all part of the same cutscene, but definitely not in order of what the actual cutscene will be or what we'll end up seeing in the game. Therefore, I'm calling it a cutscene, and rather, in my personal estimated guess, an opening cutscene of the game. In the first Breath of the Wild, we were told Link had been in the Shrine of Resurrection for 100 years, but we were also told of the events that occurred 10,000 years ago upon our first Impasse encounter. These two things give me two more educated guesses. When is Breath of the Wild 2 taking place, and where in Hyrule is this cave that Zelda and Link are exploring in the trailer? These two educated guesses take me to another personal theory of where in the Zelda timeline do the Breath of the Wild games fall under. First, let's discuss where in Hyrule this cave, dungeon, or mine is located at. Give or take approximately, of course. Whether the shot of Hyrule Castle rising from the ground was just for the marketing trailer or not, at this point I will just use it for my educated guess that in fact this trailer is part of an in-game opening cutscene. From where this shot is taken, it seems to be about the same direction from on or around the Shrine of Resurrection. This is just a wild thought on figuring out the distance and the angle from where this shot is and where Hyrule Castle sits at the far background. Yes, both of these shots are slightly different, but only from the angle from where they were taken. In the first Breath of the Wild opening cutscene, we obviously see Hyrule Castle right at the far background, Death Mountain at the around 1 o'clock from where Link is standing, that one tree stump in the middle of the picture, and the hill next to Hopper Pond left side of the picture. In the Breath of the Wild 2 or sequel trailer, the shot is slightly panned over to the left, showing Hebra's Peak and zoomed in a bit more towards Hyrule Castle. I can only and personally speculate that this shot is right out from the Shrine of Resurrection as well, just as in the first Breath of the Wild opening cutscene. If we were to say that this shot was, or becomes the Shrine of Resurrection, I only have the following two to compare. There's no other place but the Shrine of Resurrection in Breath of the Wild 1 that comes close to looking to this. At least none that I personally experienced. This starts to show somewhat of a proven guess that this may actually or eventually become the Shrine of Resurrection before the Chica technology was invented or brought over to Hyrule. And yet another educated guess. If this could possibly become the Shrine of Resurrection, it would make total sense that the Chica technology had to be invented to fortify Hyrule forces against evil. Now, when does Breath of the Wild 2 takes place? Well, I do want to touch upon one thing I'm almost 100% certain that other theories have been wrong on. There are more than just a couple theories out there pointing out the absence of the Chica Towers and shrines in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. Yes, that much is true, but where these videos are somewhat wrong is that they indicate that Breath of the Wild 2 will take place right after the events of Breath of the Wild 1. I disagree with this theory. Somewhat, okay? But I'll elaborate on that somewhat in just a minute. I truly believe that Breath of the Wild 2 will take place before Breath of the Wild 1. An unconventional known concept in the Zelda saga. The absence of the Chica Towers and shrines in the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer totally backs up my educated guess of Breath of the Wild 2 taking place before Breath of the Wild 1. Why? Well, because we already know that none of the Chica Towers or shrines were present in Hyrule until they were activated by Link at the beginning of Breath of the Wild 1, 100 years after he had been asleep. My educated guess is that Breath of the Wild 2 will take place in between the 10,000 year ago battle Impa talked about and the 100 years up to the point where Link wakes up in Breath of the Wild 1. A lot could have happened or happened in between the 10,000 year ago battle and the present. But let's just start by recapping on the Breath of the Wild 1 memories. Memory number 15 and 16. Return of Calamity Ganon and Despair, respectively. I take these memories as key elements to my educated guesses because starting with memory number 15, Return of Calamity Ganon, we know all the champions were piloting the corresponding divine beast, but unfortunately they were defeated and killed by Calamity Ganon, who made the guardians and divine beasts turn against them. Having this in mind, we know that the Chica technology already existed and was at the disposal of the Hyrule Kingdom, up to this point. From here on forward, and to my understanding, the Chica technology was somehow absent during Link's 100-year-old nap and up to the point where he activates the Great Plateau Tower. So, I can freely say that Breath of the Wild's sequel could very well take place during this time prior to Link's Awakening. No, not that Link's Awakening. This Link's Awakening. Now, as a bonus and extra educated guess I have is both of these games, Breath of the Wild 1 and 2, fall under the defeated hero timeline. In memory number 17, Zelda's Awakening, we see the hero, Link, unable to carry on. Though you may argue, hey, the timeline where the hero is defeated is the child era. And you will be right pointing that out. But may I reiterate that this confrontation with Calamity Ganon took place 100 years ago. Therefore, Link was sure younger. Another argument you may debate with me is that just the Link's age appearance as seen on throughout Breath of the Wild's memories. But I will counter debate that with my next educated guess. Time travel. Time travel has not been an absent concept from the Zelda series. So if my educated guesses already discussed in this video were to be true in some way or another, having time travel to cover such extensive time frame could very well answer many questions of what happens from the time of the 10,000-year-old battle against Calamity Ganon described by Impa up to the events of the champions getting defeated as seen in memories 15 and 16. This for me pretty much explains one little detail on why Link is already carrying the Master Sword on the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer, which many people are making profound observations to and theorizing, but that's just a minor observation theory. Another educated guess I have pertaining to time travel would be a similar concept of what we saw in The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I know it isn't time travel per se, and rather a dimension portal travel. If time travel is adapted by the Breath of the Wild sequel, it could very well go on a couple different directions. One would be just as we saw in Majora's Mask, not Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time travel changed a time frame where everyone aged over the time of this time travel. Time travel in Majora's Mask didn't do this, of course because it was just a 3-day time frame. But still, Breath of the Wild 2 time traveling could happen without altering anyone's age, which with my educated guess would explain Zelda's short hair. Every Breath of the Wild 2 theory I've heard has stated that Breath of the Wild 2 takes place right after the events of Breath of the Wild 1, and Zelda just simply cut her hair. I kind of disagree with that, but somehow I agree at the same time. I'll explain in a minute. Let me reiterate though that this video is based just on observations and nothing else. Aside from the time travel educated guess, I also think traveling in between two dimensions or parallel worlds as in The Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds could also be a potential concept if executed well in Breath of the Wild 2. As I stated a minute ago, there's a huge gap of a time frame to cover if Breath of the Wild sequel story takes place before and after Breath of the Wild 1. I kind of agree and disagree with other people's opinions about Zelda's short hair's theories. Most people though are stating that she just simply cut her hair. I beg to differ. If in fact time travel becomes a thing in Breath of the Wild 2, and if this trailer was from an opening cutscene prior to the events of Breath of the Wild 1. With many clues absorbed by this trailer, there's one in particular at the end of the Breath of the Wild 1 which could be a part of the story of traveling back and forth in time. And that is when Zelda tells Link that Ruta has stopped working.
Divine Beast Varuta. Looks like it's stopped working.
If this somehow becomes part of the Breath of the Wild 2 main storyline, then yes, of course! Breath of the Wild 2 picks up right where Breath of the Wild 1 left off. But my big but is part of the plot involves taking care of things prior to Link's 100-year-old nap. My next educated guess is the essence of Malice. As we look at the outside world of Hyrule in the final shot of the trailer, we clearly see the absence of Malice. So if Breath of the Wild 2 picks up right after Breath of the Wild 1 as theorized by many, then what the heck happened to Malice? I'll give you my educated guess on that in just a minute. But first, there's something else I want to point out that kind of debunks the theory of Breath of the Wild 2 picking up right where Breath of the Wild 1 left off, and that is the state in which Hyrule was left after Calamity Ganon was contained. Again, let's take a look at these two pictures. One is the final credits scene from Breath of the Wild 1, and the other is the final shot from Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. First, let's take a look at the Hyrule Castle. Notice the columns that surrounded the castle throughout the whole Breath of the Wild game, still intact even after sealing or containing Calamity Ganon. These columns didn't seem to have gone back into the ground, and their height still right about the same as when they first appeared. Second, the presence of the Chica Towers is there still. So it seems that the Malice did not get contained along with Calamity Ganon. Well, duh, yes, of course you would say, but why do we see the Malice once again in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer? My educated guess on this again, that Breath of the Wild 2 could take place before the first Breath of the Wild, and this is where Malice was invoked by a foreign matter not seen in this trailer. Outside in Hyrule, everything seems fine, but here, in this underground area, is where Malice was born, where Malice became what we all know it for. But my question is, where is this green essence elevating to? Where exactly is Malice coming or leaking from? We can kind of see it coming from the center, and my educated guess is that this Malice is leaking from another dimension, using this mummified Ganon as the host to regenerate and spread over Hyrule, as we clearly see the sudden Malice volatilizing. My question is, would this be sort of a portal into another parallel dimension? Did Zelda fall all the way down? I know, there's a shot of what appears to be Link's hand reaching for Zelda's, but that doesn't mean he was able to pull her all the way up. I mean, what happened here? Again, this is just a minor observation that kind of backs up my educated guess. Kinda, I know. But in no way, shape or form will they conclude any of the events to happen in Breath of the Wild 2. One last observation I want to point out, where I know people have been wrong on, is that this animal Zelda is riding is one of those buffaloes as seen in Breath of the Wild 1. But I have no idea in what way, shape or form does this beast come close to be a buffalo from those seen in Breath of the Wild 1. Just take a look at the human to animal size ratio. First, let me say that these screenshots are the closest I could grab from Link standing as close as possible to see the height and size difference. Take a look at these three pictures. Height-wise, Link is right to the height of the buffalo's ass or head. On the contrary, this prehistoric looking animal is at least 3 times the height of Zelda or Link. Give or take, give or take. Also, take a look at the tail of this Breath of the Wild 1 buffalo. It's somewhat long and thin. On this other animal, it's short compared to its body size and it's fat and blunt. The only 2 similarities I see between these 2 animals are the horns. But that's it. That's it. I highly doubt that this is the same animal or even a similar species, as stated and theorized by many other theories out there. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Whew. So there are a few more things that I really wanna point out, but I may just do so on a second video if you guys would like that. I think I already went on for a bit too long than necessary. But whether my educated guesses sound right or wrong or just straight out stupid, some of you will say, and that's totally fine, I would really love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear your personal opinions and thoughts, ruling out everything else that everyone has already talked about. I would love to hear anything that opposes anything I just shared on this video, or in the contrary, anything that you think supports what I just said. So I thank you very much guys for sticking around with such a long ass video. I don't typically do this kind of theory videos, but if you liked it, let me know, and or don't be shy to subscribe, like the video, share it, and I hope to see you down at the comment section below. Until then, until next time, until whenever, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Game on!